On this episode of Dirt Dreamers TV, we are creating horsepower. How?
By building an engine.
Yeah, not a lot of horsepower because, sandy, but we're finally putting her back together.
Sit down. Shut up. Shut up.
Odia.com. 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 Odia.com.
So right now we're in the process of stripping all the old stuff off of the original block. Gotta take the pulley off so we can get the water pump in the front cover, the rear cover off, and then we can pull the crank out, clean everything up, make it look all nice, and we'll throw it on the new block.
Odia.com. Odia.com. Odia.com.
So during our last outing with Sandy, we had some oil pressure issues. So one thing we were definitely hoping to check was our oil pump when we pulled this bad boy apart, thinking maybe when we pulled this gear off that turns off the crankshaft that we might find some scoring in here. But lucky for us, there's nothing, so we're thinking it's something we can reuse. But we did find some light scoring on the front case. Not anything too crazy, so we're hoping that we can still run it, but we're gonna give it some thought. Maybe something we're gonna buy new parts for, but as of now, everything looks better than expected. Have to clean the block, so we had it taken to the machine shop to bore out our cylinders because we bought oversized pistons. But with that, you can have some debris and junk left in our oil galleys, so we need to get those guys cleaned out to make sure everything is good to go. So obviously once we got the new block clean, we have to paint it to keep it from rusting, keep it good and new. But rather than just painting it some old boring color, Colin and I, being the creative geniuses that we are, decided let's do something fancy with it. Why not? You know, we've had the motor out of the truck for this long, like, why not take a couple extra days to paint it? So with my master taping skills and Carl's master spray can skills, we made a masterpiece and we are about to unveil it. And quite frankly, I'm terrified because I don't actually have master taping skills. Carl is really good with the spray can, but he can only do as good as he is given with my lines. So it may be a big sludgy mess or it may look kind of cool, but we're about to check it out. Alright guys, it actually came out so much better than we were expecting. So this beautiful beast of 4 cylinders may not have any power, whole bunch of squirrel fury, but she's gonna look cool. Got a few little pieces to touch up, but all in all, we're pretty excited! So we're just laying down some quick plastic gauge, checking our oil clearance between our bearings and our crankshaft. Throwing our caps on, giving them hell, and then right after that we're gonna check and see what the clearance is. Hope she's good to go. So I got really excited throwing this bad boy together. Carl came in and he yelled at me, guys. He yelled and he screamed. Apparently I was supposed to lube her up first. Why, Carl?
Anything that requires a lot of torque, such as the main bolts, the head studs, things of that nature, require lube on the threads and also on the bottom of the cap screw where they hold down the main cap, so they can get proper torque.
So guys, all in all, just know when you're putting it in, you gotta lube it up.
Correct.
Hey, sorry, Grandma. Or Mom. My grandma doesn't watch this. That's right. Guys, after putting it all together and then taking it all apart again, we found that although our spacing doesn't exactly fit racing specs, it does fit street specs. So we know that we could take the crank in, get it polished, give us a little more room to get some more oil flowing through there, but with this being a budget truck and it's just been apart so freaking long, we're super excited to get it back together. We've decided we're going to just go ahead and run what we brung right here into the garage. We're going to throw it back together. So we're going to pull that crank out again, get it all lubed up, because Carl taught us the importance of lubrication earlier. And then put it back together again, because in and out, in and out, in and out, it's just the fun part. We learn that in life, kids.
Alright, so Brittany and I finally got the new pistons assembled on the connecting rods. We measured the oil clearance with plastic gauge, and then we went to measure the ring gap, and it turns out the rings are a little too tight. We don't have enough gap between our our two ends here when it's installed in the cylinder. So what we have to do is, I don't have a ring grinder, so I had to order one. Amazon should be here Tuesday, a couple days away, but unfortunately can't really assemble any more of the rotating assembly without having rings on pistons, so looks like that's where we're at for today. Did you just fall?
Anatomy lesson of a motor, we are learning about freeze plugs. This super tiny, seemingly insignificant little part is actually designed to keep your entire motor from turning into a popsicle. I'm just kidding, not really. But in the event that you live somewhere where it's freezing cold, luckily for us we're in Arizona so we don't need to worry about it, but we still need them. These little guys are meant to keep your complete block from splitting open. So if you're somewhere where it's freezing cold and your motor is sitting overnight and your coolant freezes, if you didn't have this, that guy would pop open like a frozen grape. But if you've got freeze plugs, this is actually just going to pop right out of there, allow your coolant to expand, and then your motor gets to stay in one whole piece. So something tiny doesn't seem that important, but if you live somewhere freezing, super important. So that is what Colo's installing behind me, doing all the fun work. I can't properly use a hammer to save my life, so luckily he's got precision skills and he's taking care of it.
Finally got Brittany in here doing some work on this engine rather than just talking to you guys the whole time. But really, she's putting on the timing chain. And what the timing chain does is it connects the crankshaft to the camshaft. Without the chain, there's no way for the camshaft to turn on this engine. After a very light amount of deliberation, we've decided to just go ahead and buy a new oil pump. So here's a new oil pump, and I shall install. So we've come to the point where we're going to put on our crank scraper. So this is made by LC Engineering. Basically what their idea is behind this is it sandwiches in between your block and your oil pan. And what it does is when these engines are turning high RPM, what will happen is the oil will actually get a film around the crankshaft, and it can actually cause a little bit of a parasitic load. With an engine this small, obviously we don't have a lot of power to begin with, so anything we can do to increase our power is what we're going for. This actually sits close enough to the crank as it's turning that it'll actually catch that oil and return it to the pan rather than letting it continuously build a film around the crankshaft as it's spinning. So I don't know if it'll really work, but we'll give it a try.
So this next part is where things get a little interesting. Because we added that crank scraper, it's going to be a little taller, obviously, and we didn't buy longer bolts. So cross your fingers that this next part isn't us telling you that these little nuggets were too short. So you remember that thing that I didn't want to say? I don't have to say it because they fit. Gotcha.
Alright guys, so we've gone as far as we're going to go on assembly right now until we install the engine into the truck due to some clearance issues. After it's installed into the truck, then we'll put on the cylinder head, attach all the accessories, and we'll be ready to test it.
And until next time.
Odia.com.